Welcome to the Real Mom Hub, where we celebrate the beautiful, profound transformation into motherhood.
It's a journey that shatters and rebuilds us in incredible ways. We share the voices of everyday moms in the trenches, honing and discovering their natural instincts and superpowers.
We air out the hard parts of parenting people don't like to talk about. Because matrescence leaves no one unscathed, and let's be honest, it's as hard as it is joyful.
So why not embrace it? Lean into the growth, the struggle, the magic. This is your opportunity for complete and utter personal transformation.
We're so glad you're here. You myself finished eating my chocolate.
I want some. I need a little pick-me-up. It's kind of like the slump of the afternoon nap time. Like when I want to be napping, like I've just soothed my kid to sleep. And I'm looking at him on the monitor right now, and he is for sure not asleep.
Well, I will say I've started a afternoon coffee ritual where as soon as I get Nora in bed, I reward myself with, cheers.
Here it is. Here she is. Cheers.
And
she
then
hasn't kicked in yet, but here we are.
I've also been adding dark chocolate to the ritual, so this bar actually stays in my office now.
Oh, that's what I need.
Of dark chocolate with my coffee.
There's a life hack.
Life hacks. Yep, you're welcome.
It's like a classic Anne O'Leary move.
Oh, I know. So today we're talking about fear setting. Hopefully you've had enough coffee for this conversation because you're in the hot seat. So the reason is you've briefly mentioned fear setting.
Yeah, I think it was episode 10.
Okay. So the funny part is to you, it's like, oh yeah, I did this thing. But to me and to apparently a bunch of listeners, it's sort of like, wow, that was brilliant. Like it's a little bit earth shattering, which you think is funny.
I do.
So for those of you that have not, those of us, I should say, that have not thought to do this ourselves, you're going to share what it looks like, how you do it. You made your spreadsheet pretty for the rest of us so that we can do it ourselves.
Well, I have my notebook, my green notebook where everything goes. Like when I need to journal something through, it goes in there. Mm-hmm. And the fear setting I've done for years by myself, like if I need to work through a problem or if I'm feeling anticipation or anxiety about an upcoming thing. But when I was choosing or figuring out if I was going to leave the workforce temporarily, that was a fear setting that Kyle and I did together. And it was the first time we did that. Definitely won't be the last. It was super helpful. So all you need is a journal, really, and a pen. But yes, I did make a little spreadsheet just to kind of it's not a spreadsheet. It's a really pretty little pamphlet that you can download. We'll link to it in our episode as well as on social. Hopefully it's helpful to everyone.
Because I think this is actually the first excuse me, choking on my dark chocolate. This is the first true listener request episode where people are like, I want to know more about this. And some people have even said I used that model and it was great. So
yeah. Well, and I need to say I've done this for years, so I'm not really sure where I came across it. I do know it is not a product of my own brain or my creativity. So
you should own it.
No, I definitely did not come up with this at all. I'm sure I learned about it in some self-help book. Google tells me that it's popularly attributed to Tim Ferriss, which is super check out because I followed him for years. You can just go ahead and attribute this to him right now.
Love it.
So anyways.
So let's talk about Emily O'Leary's fear setting in this stage of your life, which is the stage of matrescence and a host of other things.
Correct. Yeah.
Set us up.
Sure. So, okay, if I look at the date on the top of this journal, it goes back to August of this year, so summer. Okay. And I was still working full time, as was Kyle. And we knew that there were big shifts on the horizon. We knew that he was going to be shifting into a different industry for his career. And that was upcoming this fall. We also, at this point, I had anticipated, looking for a different job, but still remaining full-time in the workforce. And this is around the time when we found out that we would need a full new childcare shift in the fall. We need to find new help. And I was like, that just feels wrong. I've got a lot of feels about that. So it was the first time that we were like, you know what if you just watch the kid and you don't go back to work, and the whole, while this crazy fall is happening for Kyle and his career. Yeah, it's just a crazy time. So the other thing was my postpartum and matrescence rocked me so hard as an individual with Kieran. We were like, okay, I was telling Kyle, I can't go on this roller coaster for years and years. We're probably going to have to try again for another kid pretty soon. So, and I'm like, I don't really want to be looking for another job while I'm trying to get pregnant and I'm getting really sick when I'm pregnant, like I did with
Okay, I'm just
Kieran.
gonna pause you just so
Yeah.
that people can feel like they're not alone. Like what you're saying is you thought you were going to work through having kids.
Yes. I
You
thought it would
didn't
work the whole time.
realize how intense the emotional, physical, spiritual, everything changes of having a child. And you were like, I don't want to be doing these things together.
Yes. Yes. Some things
Or I
need to
can't.
pause. I need to focus on others. We just need to redistribute what I'm focusing on. And I don't know if you can hear the anxiety in my voice.
Right,
I'm
you're
still
going so
feeling
fast.
it.
I'm like,
I'm feeling it right
let
now.
that sink in. Maybe for you too.
Yes, I feel anxiety honestly right now and did at the time. And it's kind of full circle to be circling back on these lists that Kyle and I made in August before when we were talking about me just leaving the workforce.
So just keep drinking your coffee. Let's get all the adrenaline going.
Oh my God.
Full anxiety.
Sure, why
On
not?
the pod. Let's do
Why
it.
not? And I think we should also tell listeners, if you go back and listen to episode 10, we cover a lot of this. So I don't want to say things we've already said on this podcast, but give that a re-listen if you'd like. And that should be noted. I did leave my job in September. So we published that in December. At this point, we're all caught up, the timeline of our real lives and when we release episodes. But at the time, it came out a little later. So anyways, I got my little notebook here. So this is where Kyle and I have our annual like goal setting or dream setting session, which we did a few weeks ago. It's where we did the fear setting.
And what does that look like? Like, some people do a weekend away. Kevin and I are going to actually try to do that. I'm guessing that's
Ooh,
not what your life looked like
I would
when you did your
love
goal
a
setting.
weekend away.
Yeah, Gammy's coming Valentine's Day weekend, which the timing was not on purpose, but she's coming to watch our kids so we can do an overnight to cross country ski and goal set, fear set.
Okay. Well,
Yep.
let's start with the fear setting, and then I'll tell you what we did this year for goal setting and what we've done previously. And you can see what resonates and what you hate, whatever.
Love it.
Okay, so we were fear setting about two things. So we were saying our fears out loud about two things. Kyle's new job, which he didn't know what it was going to be yet, and me quitting my job. So one thing, Kyle's new job, we'd known was coming. Mine was new. Mine was like oh God, seismic shift.
So was this like you both have these fears, it was like it's time we need to talk about them? Or is it more like, hey, what are your fears? What are you like? Is it like date conversation material, how this comes up? Or it's like you both had a need. It's like, okay, it's time to fear set.
We both had a need, time to fear set. It was big stuff for us at the time. So I know we had anxieties. We needed to make sure that we were aligned if we were going to make this big decision together. And I think writing it down, saying it out loud, what we did, we were sitting in the car. We actually went for a long drive. And we made a column for Kyle's fears and we made a column for mine. And we just wrote them down. I dictated for him, but he said he named his and I received them neutrally, like no response, just wrote them all down. Same with mine. Mm-hmm. If you look at the fear setting framework that we are going to link to in this episode, I'm just going to go through kind of a more structured way of doing this exercise. We kind of loosely followed it in our case. So the first step is you define your fear. So what is the thing you're afraid of doing and get super, super specific. Don't leave anything out. Be honest. And then you want to say the worst case out loud. So if everything goes to shit, what does that look like? I
believe you mean fish.
Sorry, if everything goes to fish, what does that look like? If your life is a dumpster fire due to this choice, be honest about that.
Okay.
Once you've kind of said the fear out loud, define your worst case, then you can move into, okay, so hypothetically, our life is a living hell. If we see that coming, how do we prevent it? Like, what are the things that we can do to make sure that our worst case doesn't happen? First of all. Second of all, if it does happen and, the preventative measures don't work out, how would we repair the situation?
Okay.
So those things I think happen pretty naturally for us. If we call one of these meetings, we know at this point in our marriage that we're here for a constructive outcome. We're here to problem solve. We're here and we're just
this is a business meeting.
This is a business meeting. We're looking for solutions.
And it's funny. I don't think we don't think of partnerships like a business.
Oh God. I gotta go. Here, pause 1 sec. No, it's fine. Just pause.
We're back, folks. Would you like to fill us in? I should have kept it running because I could hear like scraping and thumps after you said, "Oh God," and ran out of the room.
Oh, that was just me going up the stairs. No, I had Kieran's monitor in front of me, and usually he goes down for a nap really well, but we were out visiting someone today, and he fell asleep in the car. We were actually visiting Aunt Nancy, who was his primary caretaker. I know.
So sweet.
It's so nice to see her. Anyways, he's fine. I just watched him chuck his sleep buddy out of the crib and then the blanket, and then I watched him try and climb out of the crib, which he's very top heavy. So, at a certain point, gravity just takes effect. And I caught him before that happened, but here we are. So Kyle's taking his lunch break watching this child while we wrap up this episode. Don't remember where we were.
We were talking about, I was just saying, like, I don't think of a partnership as in a marriage, right? Like when two people love each other and have a family. I don't think of it like a business. And I think there's times like this fear setting when that's probably valuable is to think more like business meeting. How can we be productive and make our goals align? I don't think like that. This is why this is so good. Oh. Okay, continue.
Oh, no, I super do.
I know. I'm learning. This is awesome.
Well, of course we are romantic and we love each other. We have that side to our relationship, but it's almost nice for me to manage the business partnership stuff into these little boxes. Like, we're going to do it during this exercise so that we don't have to be tiptoeing around these issues later on.
Right. Like, I'm sure the romance is better and the friendship is better when you deal with these things.
I would think so. I wouldn't know. This is how we've done it for a while. I don't know.
All right. Continue.
So I've taken us through, I think, maybe the 4 first steps. You define your fear. You talk about your worst case scenario. You talk about how you can prevent that. You talk about what happens if it does happen. Mm-hmm. Those are pretty natural things, those 4 things for us to walk through. I think I'm a dreamer too. Like I tend to look into the future and get excited about it. So number 5, when you're identifying the upsides, is kind of always present for me. Mm-hmm. So that is, what could be incredible if I make this choice.
Yeah.
Like, what are these upsides? Why might I be doing this in pursuit of what dream? And then the last one, and this one, it's the cost of inaction. So if you don't make this choice now, if you stay stagnant, if you don't do the thing, what's going to happen to you? Can you put a timeline on it? Is it going to be like in 6 months? What's going on? What about a year, 5 years? I don't think we did that one specifically, but I think it's valuable nonetheless.
So have you ever done fear setting for something that is not exciting, right? Like, you were thinking about career changes that are going to be beneficial. Do you ever have things that you're afraid of that you don't have a good solution for?
Probably this one.
Okay. Because you actually just have less income than you used to.
Well, it's not even about income. It's time. It's capacity. I don't know how to solve for those things when the reason they don't exist is because I'm caring for a tiny human, which I've chosen.
So can you lay out what your fear was?
I will just...
Same fear.
Yeah.
Same fear.
Same fear. Well, listeners can text us or write in or whatever and tell us if these do line up with fears that they've had. So we'll start with Kyle's new job because we were fear setting for 2 things. And he was working from home, very flexible, had been in his current role for, 7 years or something at this point. So the fears there were really basic. His were having to leave the house, AKA leave Kieran and me. In times when maybe we need to take him for an appointment or whatever. He was like, I just won't be a part of the family,
Yeah.
So that was one fear. Childcare was another fear because he was able to help out a lot. And then do we need 2 cars? Those are basic things where we kind of wrote those down. We didn't even really talk about them because we're like, checks out.
Yeah.
Comes with the territory.
Yeah.
Me quitting, Kyle's columns were longer. Kyle's column was longer. So his first fear was insurance. We had really great insurance through my corporate job at the time, literally just running out of money. Another one of his, and I should have asked him about this before we started recording, my feelings on sacrifice, Emily, Emily's feelings on sacrifice.
Oh, that was his fear.
That was his fear. And I think it's a really well-founded fear. He'd never watched me sacrifice my comfort and needs and wants daily.
Yeah.
He'd watched me sacrifice situationally, but not consistently. So that hit. I was like, ooh, really reasonable though.
Mm-hmm.
Another fear of his was how I would structure my time. Like, what will I be doing with all of this time that I have off,
Sure.
but still am doing a job? When will I go back to work? Like, what will that look like? If I take a few years off or several, like, we don't really know what it looks like once I'm out of the workforce. When does that time end? He was afraid of that. He was afraid of managing a budget because, frankly, we never have budgeted. We've had savings goals, but we've never needed to. We're really lucky. And then his last fear was, okay, so we do all this, we shift our life drastically, and what if we can't have another kid? Like, what happens if we've done all this? Because I don't think we'd be making this choice if we intended to just stop with Kieran.
You don't think so? I mean, what if you had to put Kieran in a childcare situation that you, like, what if you couldn't find childcare?
I think that probably we would have gone in with in-home care still. Like, I probably would have, I don't know,
really hired a nanny or
hired a full-time nanny who was outside of our family and just made sure that I had compensation in my new role that could accommodate. Because when you have one kid, it's almost like you can kind of get back to the life that you had or like continue living the way that you were. And also like make sure that he had more of a community around him anyways than just Kyle and me. So anyways, so those are all Kyle's. So when we're in the car, I'm just writing those down neutrally, like no reaction, just like, okay, that's a fear, that's a fear, that's a fear. And then I wrote down mine. So I actually had less. Mine was losing income. And I linked that to relationships. So many of our relationships that are really strong or important to us are across the country on the West Coast. And yes, we live in 2024. You can do Zoom calls, you can call each other, but there is something about being in person. So no income, it's like, well, it actually costs a lot of money to visit them.
Yep.
And that goes for leisure as well. Failing, that was because in staying home with Kieran, I'm not someone who's going to stop personal interests and projects of my own, such as this podcast. So fear of failure was pretty present for me. So losing social status, that was pretty up there for me as well, in terms of like, you know, when you're out to drinks or you're out with friends, a lot of your conversation is, you know, how was work or the relationships adjacent to work, or like you have social status when you have a certain role attached to your name or you're attached to a certain company. And then additionally, the social status, like, you know, being able to go out and do the thing that costs money. Going back to work, so that was the same as Kyle's. You know, what is that going to look like? When will it happen? How will I handle that? That'll be a pretty big hurdle. So setting myself up for success there. And then not managing my time was also one of mine.
When you're home.
When I'm home. And that's a work in progress still.
Me too, man.
So that was everything we wrote down, and then could go and address every single point and take it through the rubric of, okay, we've said it out loud. How can we prevent this thing from happening? Or, you know, if it does happen, what's going to happen to us?
So basically you have a plan for every potential failure.
So I wouldn't say that we have a specific plan for all of those, but it was really helpful to say, okay, if this does happen, could we do X, Y, and Z to solve for it?
Right.
As far as we know, yeah, there are multiple plans that could work out to solve the problem.
And I just want to jump in too. Your fears are just as valued. What's the word I'm looking for?
Valid.
Thank you. As, you know, my fears are somebody in a different financial situation, and this fear setting will work just the same. I'm listening to you, not judging your fears, because they're going to be just as...
You can judge them. That's fine.
Well, no, I'm not, but it's just so funny because those things to us are just like not where we're at. You know, we've had to budget from day one. Like we have not been high earners. We were 2 teachers with kids right away. We're just in a very different situation, which is just how the world works. But every fear is just as valid and just as important for you to work through. So if you're someone that's not in that financial situation where you can afford a nanny, or, you know, you had those other things, like this is still incredibly valuable. Also, it's just so interesting how money does come into play for a lot of these things, but so many people are happy with a very small amount of money. I just think it's good to point out for people that might be listening to this having some anxiety because they're like, oh, I didn't even think to have that fear because we couldn't even have that fear, you know?
But we were in a situation that we were leaving, and the situation was our reality at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so to change your reality, even if it's like, of course, that's not going to hurt you, can feel really scary. You don't know what's on the other side.
Yeah, regardless of what situation you're in or leaving or
Yeah. And like financially, Kyle and I are doing weekly financial meetings right now because money is so tight. Like money is, I would say, a problem. Like it's hard right now. It's very, and there's nothing that's even happened yet that I've felt like I missed out on because of money. But our dreams are different because they're very much constrained at this time. So like we had a finance meeting on Monday and I like fully spiraled and just had anxiety for the rest of the night. As did Kyle separately.
Sweet.
Yeah. So then yesterday, which is Tuesday, like we woke up and he was like, I feel like such an asshole. Like I just feel embarrassed because I couldn't sleep all of last night. And I was like, same, neither of us slept. And he was like, there are people who have real problems in this world. And this is how we're responding.
But it is still a problem. Like, that's the thing. I'm reading this Holocaust book right now. And then I'm thinking, and I think I have problems, but we still do. And that's just how the brain works. And it's good to validate them and to lay them out and say them out loud and be on the same page with your partner.
Yeah. And I think it helps you be less of a little wuss. Like, oh my God. Like Kyle and I, didn't sleep for a whole night because we're really stressed about money. When we wake up and we're like, okay, have we missed any payments? No. Are we still contributing to Roth IRAs? So far, yeah. Is he going to get a paycheck soon? Yeah. Like, it's just like, how ridiculous are we? But also our reality has shifted a lot. So
yeah.
Both are true. What was really interesting to me, I remember sitting in the car and I just looked at him because we had outlined his column first and then I had done mine. And I just had to look at him and I was like, honestly, like my greatest fear is getting into a corporate rhythm, knowing that I have not found a way to super value the work or make it feel intuitive. And if I am working 40 plus hours a week or even 20 hours a week, and my kid sees that I'm away from him and not prioritizing him, to me, if he sees me doing meaningful, good work that I believe in, I feel great about that. Sure. But if he is seeing me chase the lifestyle or chase the material, that was horrifying for me. That was my biggest fear. So listing all of those fears, going through them, honestly, at the end of this, it helped me realize my biggest fear was staying. My biggest fear was not diving into the deep end now while we only have one kid and challenging myself to see what kind of potential I have doing creative work that was meaningful to me. So without this fear setting exercise, I would not have been able to articulate that. I don't think that would have been something that Kyle and I could talk about easily. So that was my upside. The upside is, what if I quit my job? We have a couple really hard years, which will fly by quickly. We build a family. I start building a side hustle or two. Things really take off for us. What if we have a couple of years of famine and deliver into our life more goodness than we ever could have imagined? Like if I stay in this job, if I get another similar job, I can see what that road ahead looks like. I can see what I could expect from that life. Yeah. Because plenty of other people are doing it.
Yep. Wow. Motherhood, man. And was Kyle, I'm assuming he was on board with all of this. Was it easy for you to tell him your fears? Like, was it easy for him to understand? Or in this model, does it even matter if he understands? Like, it's the practice of saying it out loud?
I think it's the practice for Kyle and me specifically. What matters is that we're on the same page with solution or prevention. So for example, prevention, we put a number on our liquid savings. Okay. We were like, if we get down to this point, I am
going to work a quick trip overnight.
Yeah. And we could agree on that number, which we officially hit on Monday in our savings.
Ooh.
Yeah. So he has a paycheck coming, so I'm not going to go work a quick trip. And that was an exaggeration. But that's me. That's us being specific. Like,
Yeah.
we've agreed when we reach this point, something will change. The possible repair, like, what does that look like? Because then we're aligned to when the really hard thing hits, we've already talked about it. And then identifying the upsides, that's mostly me almost every time in these conversations, because I am the dreamer of the two of us. But the cost of inaction was like, that was interesting, because in this case, it's like, okay, so what if I stay in my job? What? We have financial health? Like, I don't, and I have professional growth,
Yep. My LinkedIn looks good.
not a lot of cost there, only upside. So the cost was really like, Kieran eventually sees that, like, that's our life. The cost of inaction is that we get more and more comfortable where we're at and less likely to make change.
And less aligned with your values.
And less aligned with our values.
So was this your most intense fear setting you've done?
Yeah, because I usually do them by myself. Like, it was the only one I've done with Kyle. So,
Well, and
it was
now there's a small human.
The stakes were they've never been high stakes before.
Yeah.
It was mostly like an interesting thought exercise I would do. But this time I'm like, oh, wow, this matters.
Fish is about to hit the fan.
Yeah.
So do you have check-ins then? Do you have the sheet posted somewhere, or you just both have it in your brain? Like, are there reminders why you took that leap? How do you handle that? Because I'm sure you need some inspo and some motivation and, some cheerleading for each other, because I'm serious, because life is so much harder right now.
No, you're right.
Like, what does that look like for you?
I think at this point we're good at asking each other for things. So the finance meetings, I'm calling them weekly, because I struggle the most with savings. So I'm like, I want to have to tell you exactly what I spent this week and what I spent it on. And I need to be held accountable to make sure that I'm tracking that, and that our
Auntie Lisa, you hearing this?
I know. And also, money for me always comes with a feeling of scarcity and anxiety. And so I'm excited, honestly, in this season to have these weekly check-ins with him, so that goes away. Like, I face that fear every week, and we can just have honestly clinical discussions about finances, which is how they should be.
And the more you do it, I've noticed, the less nerve-wracking they become. It's when Kevin and I haven't done it for, a month, then it's like, ooh, I don't want to do it. Yeah.
Do you guys do it weekly too?
We've been trying to lately. I wouldn't say it's fully weekly. He checks in, like, he pays off the credit card every week. Like, he does all of that. So he has a better idea of what it is. I want to know for myself, because I'm the spender, not like I'm the grocery person, like I am spending the money right now.
Same.
So that's what that looks like. But, like, here's a little anecdote. I'm not usually a dreamer, but one of our sisters was in town and we went thrifting, and the boys did a big ski weekend in town. Okay, it wasn't like in Vail, but it was a pretty spendy weekend. And Kevin and I sat down, and we thought we had, like, just used our Christmas money from grandma or whatever. And we sat down and we were like, ooh, like, we exceeded that. And so I'm looking at my thrifting haul, and I'm like, okay, I had found these mustard yellow Patagonia work overalls.
Stop.
And they're like my dream come true. Like, they're like the lady that goes and like helps people create urban gardens and like grow food for their family. Like, she wears these overalls, right? So, like, they are my dream. And we have this budgeting meeting, and then I say, okay, these were $60 at the thrift store. Like, I'm going to go return these overalls. And then the next day, I'm like, I have them ready. I pulled other stuff from my closet to consign. I'm like, we need to whatever. But Kevin came home and I said, I need you to know I was fully prepared to return these overalls, and I didn't, because I look at them and I know I'm not going to wear them enough right now. But, like, that $60 actually just reminds me of my dream for us to be on more land with a big garden. And, like, that dream actually is something we're working towards. And it was okay. And, like, that's my little reminder. And that's not something I normally do. But it was okay. I chose to go outside of the budget because I needed that.
Good job.
Thank you.
Good job keeping the pants.
Thank you. They're so cute.
Okay, I want to see a picture of them.
They're so
on
cute.
Our office call.
Anyways. Okay, so that was Emily and Kyle's fear setting in a nutshell.
Did you want to know about the dream or the accountability? Well, you'd ask, like, what are we doing?
Oh, I thought you answered it. Yeah, go.
Oh, well, there's the budgeting. And then Kyle said, like, he's just in a hard phase. So he's like, can you please write me sticky notes again, which I've done periodically.
Cute.
For different points in our marriage. So I'm doing them daily now. Like, he just gets a nice sticky note at some point during the day.
That is so cute.
Encouragement for him.
Does he know where it's going to be?
No.
It's like somewhere secret.
Well, it depends because he keeps taking over my office after he took over my original office. So then I moved into his office, trying to give him what he wants. And then I made his office nicer. Now, anyways. And then also we do, so honestly, this is a really good reminder for me. We have, he literally taped up a bunch of like spare legal paper on the wall at the foot of our bed. It's been there since the beginning of January and it looks so ratchet. It's like really ugly. And it's blank, which is embarrassing because we need to put down our value pillars so that when we wake up in the morning, we see them at the end of the bed. Like, this is what we're working towards. This is why we're in a season of hard. Brilliant. This is what we've chosen. And those value pillars are coming from our dream setting, which we did at the beginning of we did last month. Basically, beautiful. And we can talk about that at a different point, but kind of level setting, getting on the same page about our expectations in 1 year, in 5 years, in 10 years. What do we want that to look like? Mm-hmm. So that's where those value pillars come from.
They will. That's where those value pillars will.
We've identified them. We just haven't put them on the wall. So there's just like a really ugly.
That's your homework for this afternoon.
For sure. Yes. Yes.
Oh, well, thank you for sharing that with anybody that chooses to listen.
Yeah, I hope it's helpful. It was very helpful for us. Honestly, really great going through our columns again and remembering why we made the choice that we made when I'm pretty stressed out right now about all the change. Yeah, maybe we should do an episode where you tell me how to manage my money and budget and find joy and gratitude in that process.
Well, it starts with never having a lot of it, so you don't get used to it. And then it's like, oh, we have a little extra this month. Perfect.
Oh, my goodness.
Well, I'll let you know how I think we'll use this.
Are you going to?
Very romantic. Yep.
Do it.
I'll let you know.
Yeah, report back, please.
Okay, this was great.
This was nice. Love you. Bye.
You've been listening to The Real Mom Hub. Our music is by Naomi O'Leary. You can find us on social at The Real Mom Hub. We're not the authority or even very educated on the medical issues discussed. Do your own research, talk to an expert, make your own decisions, and call us if you learn anything new.
If you like what you hear, follow us on Instagram, or better yet, subscribe to our newsletter. If you don't, that's fine. We can all move on. Our purpose here is community, so if we've resonated with you, tell a friend.
Thanks for listening.